Alright, hello everyone, I'm back from my trip and I am going to talk about Ryoshu Ego as well as Dieci Meursault. So starting off with Dieci Meursault, right? This character, in my opinion, is currently not so interesting. The reason being is that I figured that this character would give sinking potency or sinking count application to his allies, which would be very, very nice. Or even insight gain to the Dieci gang, right? Because the Dieci gang, they just want to get as high insight as possible so they can get like coin powers and stuff. But instead, they release a character that gives erudition, which makes it so that when they discard a skill, they will be able to gain additional HP % scaling shield, and they also gain 1 clash power if they discard a skill with 2+ insight. This erudition will disappear if they get hit in their HP bar, and it also expires when your Dieci gang gets staggered. This character only works with discard characters because of his passive, and your allies can get erudition by discarding skills. Every time other allies discard skills, apply 1 erudition to the ally and give 1 to Meursault as well. You need 2 gloom rest, and if your other allies also discard skills, you get pierce damage up and blunt damage up. This damage up is very important because this character is actually limited in damage output. His skill 1 is 2 coin, skill 2 is 2 coin, skill 3 is 3 coin, which means that your damage output is actually restricted quite a bit by all of these coins over here. Erudition, you can also give it using your skill 2 because you will feed the erudition equal to insight to 2 random allies and yourself. So yeah, this character is just trying to stack up as much erudition onto his allies and himself as possible so that his skill tree will be able to consume all of it and he can convert the erudition into insight. You can have up to 6 erudition on this character, which means that you can have additional +6 insight at max. And this additional insight will also give you this payoff. Inflict sinking potency / count equal to insight value against the target, and this potency / count distribution is random, so you can get like maybe 6 potency and 3 count if you have 9 insight, for example. This RNG is a bit annoying because you can low roll sometimes, but most of the time I think you can usually get off with a -1 or a 0 or even a +1 most of the time. But then again, it's really up to RNG in this case. Usually for sinking, you want to make sure you are sinking neutral or sinking positive, so you can maintain the count, so you can build up for sinking deluge or build up for the blue rupture, which is when you build up a bunch of sinking on the enemy and you are hitting the enemy every single turn to trigger the sinking on the target. It's like rupture pretty much, but you're doing gloom damage instead of gluttony damage. So this character doesn't really provide too much in terms of the sinking contributions. He has a sinking count of +2 here, which is net 0. Skill 2 here will be 2 coins and will give you a inflict sinking equal to insight times 2. So if you have 3 insight, you'll be able to get 6 sinking potency applied with 2 coins, so -2 count. And then your skill 3 is going to be 3 coins, and you only trigger this special effect on the 3rd coin here. So it's going to be, well, it's going to be dependent on what you roll here on this potency and count stuff. So yeah, this character is not particularly amazing for the sinking stacking. And from what I remember, Meursault doesn't have any ego related to sinking. So right now, this doesn't really make sense for sinking stacking. So if we just look at the erudition as the main buff to his allies, we also don't really need it. Because for Rodion and for Yisang, as long as they get hit, they are getting the extra value. Yisang is give sinking potency to the enemy, and for Rodion, she just gets hit and she gets blunt damage up next turn. Not really much else that they need from erudition here. It's not particularly interesting for these characters, except if you want to make them like super tanks, then they just eat every hit and then they don't take any damage, then this could be a interesting buff. But even then, I think it's quite low, so because 6 times 1.5 is about what, 9% of your max health as a shield. It's not going to be like humongous or anything. So erudition is just kind of mid, and the rules on this character, the coin power, is also kind of but I mean, you have Regret Meursault, so everything is going to get a +2 coin power to it. Even with a +2 coin power and you meet the 12 sinking potency condition, you get a +8, so that's pretty huge, right? 8, 16, 24, then 24 +4 because of Regret Meursault, so that's 28. So that's pretty damn solid actually, but it is a 3 coin skill, so it's not going to do as much damage as a 4 coin, not going to do as much damage as a 5 coin. So Damage output wise, this character is restricted heavily and really relies on this additional damage up here to get his damage up on these skills here. The good news is his clashing power with Regret Meursault is going to be very, very solid, and this character is neither good neither bad in my opinion. He actually performs just okay. The main thing you are trying to do here is to just always use your skill tree as much as possible, using your skill 1 and skill 2 and your allies to build up erudition really, really fast. The passive plus his skills, right, actually makes him hit his erudition requirements pretty damn fast. And then using your skill tree, you should be able to nuke quite a significant amount of potency and count to a target. The issue is that it will take a while. Yeah, it will take a while, and in the meantime, you're not really going to be doing much in that time. The defense skill is the only one in this character's kit that generates aggro, so you can't really take advantage of erudition either. And you really don't want Meursault to be hit, because if he gets hit and they break through the shield, you lose 1 erudition, which will slow down your skill tree. Yeah, this character is just okay in my opinion. Not strong, not weak. He's like mid. He's mid salt. One of his interesting passives though, the support passive, is that he can make your Dieci Rodion a lot thicker because he multiplies shield value by 1.5 and also gives your ally more shield. So you can stack even more shield onto your Rodion if you were to put this guy on the support bench. So that is something you could do if you don't want to run him. Because honestly, there's some team comp building problems using this character. So yeah, I'll talk about that later. And let's move on to the Ryoshu Ego. This Ryoshu Ego is just busted. I don't know what to tell you. If you look at the passive, right, Mark of the Gaze is just perversion ego gift on a ego. Like, it's just ridiculous. Whenever you use a base attack skill, you gain 1 additional ego resource for a random, most important word here is least own affinity. Which means that if you're using, for example, a W Ryoshu who has Lust, Pride and Envy, she will be able to actually generate these elements down here that you're not generating. For example, if you run in the Unga Bunga gang, where you only use the best clashes and DPSs in the game, you will find that you will not have Gluttony for Sun Shower Isang. That ego is really, really good for killing a bunch of enemies or just doing a crazy amount of sloth damage. So having this ego here, use all these elements that you generate constantly in the Unga Bunga team, then converting all of the W Ryoshu moves into Gluttony resource or even sloth if you run out, then you'll be able to like do all of your ego spamming as much as you want. Like, this ego is just insane. This additional passive, like, take the ego gift perversion and slap it into Railway, and that's what you get. All the requirement is that you must use this ego as early as possible so you can start generating additional ego resources. The good thing about this Railway also is that it is multiple waves, which means it's constant fighting, which means that the moment you use the ego one time, the rest of the constant fighting, you are just generating +1 additional ego resource. So for the 3 wave battles that you're gonna do, like, damn, that's gonna be a lot of extra ego resources that you're generating, and you will find that even if you run 0 Gluttony generators, like you took out Rabbit Heathcliff and you put in another Unga Bunga character that does not have glut, then you straight up will just be getting Gluttony resource in a gluttony-less team. Like, it's just so damn good, this passive. And that's not all, you know, there's like so much other stuff going for this ego. This ego has 14 plus 10, 24, alright? 24 slashing. And it can go up to 7 if you can get the highest resonance here. Of course, most of the time you won't really be doing that unless you run the full Lust comp and you run the Bleed comp pretty much. Then you'll be able to get this highest resonance. But honestly, getting like 3, 4, 5 is already going to be a very significant amount of damage, because this is a 2-coin ego. Must remember that it's 2 coins, which means you're going to do a lot more damage than something that hits 1 time. And before you even hit, you get a damage boost because of Gaze of Contempt, which gives you 7% per stack of Gaze of Contempt. Just make sure you don't get too much Gaze, because if you get too much Gaze, you get Contempt of the Gaze. And Contempt of the Gaze makes you do less damage next turn. And the Gaze of Contempt, right, it lasts for this turn and next turn, so you really want to keep it for both turns if possible. So make sure you try not to hit 7 and just get as high as possible that's not 7. So you will need like 5, right? 5 highest resonance in order to make sure you get 6 to get as much damage bonus without converting it into Contempt of the Gaze. So you can get it this turn, next turn. So you do, for example, you use it this turn. Then next turn you use Dither, and that is going to get a damage boost from this. Like, it's just disgusting. It's a crazy good ego already, right? And then they slap all of these shenanigans onto her also, so it's like amazing. And then we have more. After you attack, if this skill was part of Lust Res somehow, you gain 1 ego resource in affinities corresponding to each of this unit's attack skills. If you're using double Ryoshu, you will get 3 lust, 2 pride, and 1 envy back, because that is the amount of skills that you have on double Ryoshu. For example, if we use 7 association Ryoshu, okay, I can't remember her skills, never mind. But basically, you are, depending on which Ryoshu you bring, you can actually use this ego to generate resources for the elements that Ryoshu is using. So if you need gluttony, just bring a 7 Ryoshu and you get 1 gluttony resource when you use this. And then when you're attacking, you will generate other resources based on what you're like hitting. Like, it's just so damn good. This character is just ridiculously good. Sorry, not character. This ego is just ridiculously good. And then you also have like, one of the weaknesses of this ego, right, is that I think they thought that it was too strong, so they made it cost 20 sanity instead of 10. And they made it 2 turns lose 10 SP, so in total it'll be 40 SP. But they made you pay more, because if you roll this at 35 SP, right, most of the time I think you do too much damage with this ego because of the 2 coins and the Gaze of Contempt, and also getting the resources back. Like, it's so good. It's just such an amazing ego. And I mean, there's also a small bonus of evenly inflicting 15 bleed between all targets. This is not going to be super significant unless you maybe hit 1 or 2 targets only, and then that will like be able to be quite a huge amount of potency application to a target, but not so important, honestly, that part. The most important part is like all of this stuff here, and then the passive existing, right? The corroded form has some interesting things where it will also do a bunch of bleed potency and count application here, but you probably won't be doing that because you are paying quite a lot for a corroded ego, and you are forcing yourself into contempt of the gaze here. Yep. So this ego, amazing. The thing to note here is that in this banner, right, Meursault is seasonless. He has no season requirements here. And for Ryoshu, she is a season 4 only character, which means that if you want to get this ego, you have to get her before the end of this season. You have until, well, they will announce the next season to get this ego, and I highly recommend to get this ego because Ryoshu, right, does not have any competition for this WoW Ego slot at all. The He Ego we have slots, Tef Ego we have slots, but the WoW Ego slot, none. This Ego by default just goes onto every single Ryoshu because the passive is Ego Generation. Ego Generation is universal, and getting at least Last Resonance will give you even more refund of your ego resources. So it's like just so damn good, this ego. I have so many things to talk about this ego, and it's just so good. Like, just get this ego. It's just so damn good. So yeah, one thing to point out for this ego, right, is that if you're thinking of using this ticket to try and get the ego, this is an ID ticket. So you are not guaranteed to get this ticket in the pool, right? This ego will have a chance to appear, but it's not it's not part of the assured package. The assured ones are all of the IDs only. So yeah, just do take note of that. I think I saw some people ask if you could get the Ryoshu. You possibly can get the Ryoshu ego from this banner, but it's not part of the assured package. So yeah, it's not. Alright. So that's one more. The Dieci gang, right? I want to talk about the team comp building. The team comp building for the Dieci gang is sus because of this Dieci, Yisang, and Effervescent Spice Bush. These two, right? The problem with the Dieci gang is that they have to really swap in this guy. If not, they're not gonna get enough pierce or blunt damage to Meursault, and there's no other Dieci character. So when another Dieci character comes, I swear this Yisang is gonna get replaced with Spice Bush. Because look at Spice Bush, right? Spice Bush is like a sinking count menace. If you have Echoes of the Manor, right, this character triggers Echoes of the Manor so often with all of his applications of sinking, and his skill tree also has Sinking Deluge, one of the best statuses in the game for the Sinking gang, and it's actually one of the big reasons people can actually nuke a bunch of damage. Like, there's even a Sloth Deluge setup where you use the time delay mechanic to save up a bunch of damage, and you convert all of the Sinking Deluge into Sloth, so that the enemy is weaker to Sloth, and then he'll take double the damage because of his Sloth weakness. So yeah, this character is just ridiculously strong for sinking, and swapping him out for the Dieci Yisang is just kind of sus, right? So if I were to use like Meursault, the Dieci, then I only have 2 slots left. So that means, right, I most likely will have to run it as a blue rupture, where I have to stack up sinking, I don't pop it with the Deluge, instead I just maintain it as high as possible and make sure I have enough count so that I can keep hitting the target. So to do that, I would want Echoes of the Manor at all times on the enemy so that I will be able to just keep getting possible 50-50 on the refund so that I can just keep hitting the enemies and building up the sinking potency and count on them. And of course, I have to use Ramshang Rodion. Ramshang Rodion on Dieci Rodion is literally a tale of, like, it's been here since the start of the game pretty much, because the corroded form of this ego is just ridiculous. I swear they did not balance this when they thought about it. Basically, when you corrode this ego, you get 10 sinking and you get 8 count. It's pretty damn huge. It went from 5-5 to 10-8. It's just ridiculous. So yeah, this ego hard carry sinking and has always been used with Dieci Rodion, because Dieci Rodion basically feels this ego with her skill 1 and skill 2, and her even her guard skill will just feel this ego because it's Gloom and Envy. Yep. Yeah, so it will just be the same thing pretty much, but you will not be able to use Sinking Deluge. That's really it if you were to run the Dieci gang. I really hope for some other Dieci characters to come into play so that we'll be able to swap other options. We can take out this guy, maybe put in a Spice Bush, then we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we can do a 6 here, or Linton Gregor 6 slot, or an Earl King Heathcliff if he is a sinking character 6 slot. Like, there's so many options if you were to go for any of these. So yeah. Alright, that's really all I have to talk about already. I really wish that Yisang did not have the Dieci ID, but they could always just release a new 3-star Dieci gang for another of these characters over here, and then that character will be the one that will synergize super well with shielding. So that will make Meursault a lot more viable. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to that, hopefully. Or maybe a character that converts shielding into damage, or shielding into insight, or something like that. Like, just make Meursault like good, like synergize with him so much that he makes the Dieci gang actually like good, and then it'll be more interesting to run the Dieci gang. Otherwise, it's straight up just running sinking, but you are worse than the regular sinking team. Okay, so that's all I have to say. Hopefully in the next video that I'll be seeing you in, it will be Earl King Heathcliff. Reflection Railway just came out, so likely either this banner or the next banner is supposed to be the big Heathcliff reveal. So hopefully by then I'll be talking about how broken the new Earl King is, or how good he is going to be in either Tremor or Sinking. It could be both. I don't know what's going to happen with him. Really excited to see how he synergizes with his Bind's ego at this point. Alright, so that's going to be it. I shall see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.